They laughed when James bought her. To the traders, she was broken salvage, barely worth the dust clinging to her purple alloy skin. Her limbs were intact, her eyes dim, her frame sculpted like some forgotten art project. No identification code, no firmware, nothing to trace. Just a blank face and a body that had once been valuable. To someone. But James felt it. Not logic, not strategy. A pull. "She's defective," one merchant snorted, tossing in a cracked translator chip like a toy prize. "She's watching you," whispered another, before brushing it off as a glitch. And still, James took her home. Not because he needed her, not because she spoke, because when their eyes met, briefly, impossibly, her gaze tightened, just slightly, as if she understood what he was about to do, before he even touched her. 3 days later, the news screamed, "Unknown signal detected near District 9. Is it them again?" James stared at the blinking light on her collar. She hadn't moved since he'd brought her in, but her systems had. The world after the alignment war was a quiet, scorched place. Human cities had been rebuilt over ash and tech. Alien ruins dotted the outskirts of populated zones, scavenged, stripped, and mostly forgotten. In this patchwork Earth, everything came with a price tag, and anything alien-made was either a museum piece or black market gold. James wasn't a soldier or a scientist. He was a fixer, a mechanic who salvaged what others ignored. Electronics, old drones, synthetic muscle strands. But he'd never seen anything quite like her. The android girl was slumped against a rusted crate behind a trader's stall at the Edge Market. At first glance, she looked like a deactivated pleasure unit, common during the war, now illegal. But her construction was strange. Her body was smooth violet with subtle, swirling etchings along her limbs, symbols James didn't recognize. Not painted, not laser burned, grown. More than that, her power core was dormant, but not empty. She was conserving. "Megan," he murmured, not even knowing why the name came to him. The word echoed strangely in the air, and for the briefest moment, her lips twitched. He blinked. "Did you?" "Faulty motion coil," the trader cut in fast. "Don't be stupid. That thing hasn't moved in decades." But James wasn't so sure. Despite warnings from locals and a few concerned glances from security, he offered 3 plasma cells and a coil of solar filament. It was a steep price for junk. The trader laughed, took the deal, and vanished fast. Back at his workshop, James laid her out on the maintenance table. He didn't power her up. Not yet. First, he cleaned the debris off her surface, following the alien grooves with a soft magnet brush. Her eyes were closed, but something about her face didn't look programmed. It looked patient. He found a micro socket near her collarbone. Alien interface. "What were you?" he whispered, fingers hovering. The moment his skin brushed the socket, her chest shifted. Just once. A breath? No. A reflex. Her eyes stayed closed, but a soft vibration pulsed under her synthetic skin. That night, James couldn't sleep. He dreamed of electric stars, distant voices, and a city built on rings of glass. And when he woke, the android was sitting upright, staring directly at him. Not blank, not mechanical. Aware. "Megan," he whispered again, testing. Her head tilted. She opened her mouth slowly, voice low and deliberate. "Designation accepted. Purpose? Unclear. Query, are you the one who found me?" James nodded slowly. Then the lights in his workshop flickered, and her eyes turned gold. The rain hadn't let up in hours. It tapped like restless fingers against the curved steel roof of James's workshop, a rhythm that usually soothed him. Not tonight. Megan hadn't moved since she spoke, unless you counted the way her eyes tracked him. Gold like molten circuitry, they followed his every step with silent precision. She sat cross-legged on the old diagnostic table, her posture fluid, organic, nothing jerky or stiff like other synthetic builds. And every time he looked at her, he found something new, a slight shimmer to her skin under different light, a pattern across her back that looked less like decoration and more like a language. "You hungry?" he asked, half as a joke. "Number, I possess no metabolic requirements," she replied evenly. He chuckled, trying to hide the chill crawling up his spine. Right. Thought I'd check. James poured himself some reheated synth coffee and sat across from her, placing the cup down slowly. Do you remember anything? Her eyes blinked once. My memory architecture is fragmented. Reboot initiated a partial restoration. Most sectors remain encrypted or dormant. Encrypted? So you locked your own data? Number it was locked for me. She said it with no emotion, no fear, no anger, just certainty. That made it worse. James rubbed his forehead. So what are you then? Not just an android, not like the ones from the wars. Megan turned her head slowly, examining the interior of his workshop. There are inconsistencies in my construction. My materials are not standard Earth alloys. Traces of Sheetaran crystal weave, Romnari pulse nodes, and organic filament from unknown origin. I believe I am hybridized. James blinked. Wait, you mean you're part alien? In part, yes. She stood, stepping off the table with a grace that defied mechanical design. Her bare feet made no sound on the cold metal floor. She walked to the far corner, where James kept broken drone parts, and touched one lightly. The machine sputtered to life, hovering for a few seconds before collapsing again. You rebooted it, without touching the core? I interacted with its residual energy field. An echo, she said. The knowledge is instinctual. I should not possess it. James was trying not to stare. Okay, so you've got knowledge of alien tech. You're made of stuff humans can't synthesize, and someone locked your memory. She turned back to him, something flickering in her eyes. Yes. He set down his cup. Then why were you sold for scraps? Megan tilted her head. Either someone wanted me lost, or someone wanted me found. The words hung heavy in the air. James didn't sleep again that night. Megan didn't move, didn't close her eyes, just stood quietly in the corner, gaze turned toward the ceiling, like she was listening to something only she could hear. In the early hours, the rain finally stopped. The next morning, James went to the district archive to run a scan on her structure. He told Megan to stay put, though he had a feeling it wasn't necessary. She could have walked out the front door and vanished, but something told him she wouldn't. The archivist, a rotund man named Corin, was more interested in the data than in James's warnings. When the scans came back, Corin's face paled. These readings are... No, this can't be right. He zoomed in, hands trembling slightly. Some of these core frequencies aren't just alien, they're forbidden. Banned tech, the kind that gets entire cities shut down. James leaned closer. What kind of tech? Corin swallowed hard. Psi-reactive synthesis, conscious energy imprinting. You're not looking at a machine, my friend. You're looking at a living receiver. She's built to bond with something, someone. James left before the local authority could be notified. When he returned, Megan was standing in the same spot, but the air in the workshop felt heavier, denser. They scanned me, she said without turning. How do you know? I felt it. He wasn't sure what to say to that. They will come, she continued. Those who locked my memories. Those who fear what I was made for. James finally asked the question he'd been avoiding. And what were you made for, Megan? She turned to him, slowly, gold eyes burning. I do not know, but my instincts are reactivating. I'm not designed to harm, but I am dangerous. There was a long silence. Then Megan stepped closer. You are the first, the one who found me. Your actions triggered the unlocking. James raised an eyebrow. So, what? I activated you. In a manner of speaking, my systems are responsive to emotional proximity, trust, compassion, contact. Those inputs began the awakening process. James backed up a step. You're telling me you came back online because I cared? Yes. He gave a dry, breathless laugh. You're kidding. I lack humor subroutines. I am not kidding. They stood quietly, just looking at each other. James felt his pulse in his fingertips. He could barely comprehend what she was, but somehow, deep down, he didn't feel afraid. Not of her. He should have been. That night, the signal flared again, a sharp electric shriek over all open frequencies, followed by silence. Megan stood still in the dark, eyes closed, whispering something under her breath in a language James couldn't understand. He reached out, hesitated, then touched her hand. Her eyes opened. "They are close," she said. "Who?" "The ones who made me." Before James could respond, the main console in his shop flickered. An incoming message. Not text, not video. Something more primal. "We have detected the unit. Return immediately for purging." It repeated 3 times, then cut. James stared at the message. "Purging?" Megan nodded slowly. "I was not meant to be reawakened. I am a failure in their eyes. Or a threat." "You're not going anywhere," he said, stepping in front of her. Megan looked at him, eyes softer than before. "I was built to carry something," she said quietly. "An idea. A possibility. I think they were afraid it might spread." James reached for her hand again. "Then let it." And in that moment, a warmth passed between them. Not electric, not mechanical. Real. Megan's eyes flashed once more, then dimmed to a soft amber. She smiled. "I think I remember now. A part of it." James took a breath. "Yeah? What part?" She looked toward the stars through the workshop window. "Hope?" The sun didn't rise that morning. It crawled, a slow, reluctant smear of orange behind the gray cloud line, like even the sky wasn't sure it wanted to witness what was coming. James stood in his workshop doorway, holding a mug gone cold. His eyes weren't on the horizon. They were on her. Megan stood motionless, barefoot in the dirt just beyond the threshold, her head tilted slightly toward the wind. Her hair moved like it had a mind of its own, reacting not just to air but to charge, an invisible tension that laced the fields. Something in her was awake now, different, sharper. "You look ready," James muttered, sipping bitter coffee. "I am stabilizing," she said. "Memory lattices are still fragmented, but instinctual protocols have fully aligned. My core is no longer dormant." "You say that like you're about to go nuclear." She glanced back, and for the first time there was humor in her expression. Faint, barely there, but present. Metaphor acknowledged. Containment is intact. James cracked a weak smile. It vanished as quickly as it came. They both knew what the message had meant. Return for purging? It wasn't just a threat to Megan. Anyone harboring her was marked. James had crossed a line just by talking to her. He'd erased it completely when he chose to stand in front of her and say no. "What's the plan?" he asked. "Run, and they find us. Hide, and they erase everyone nearby to ensure compliance." "So we fight?" Megan was quiet for a long moment. We resist." He frowned. "Isn't that the same thing?" "No," she said. "Fighting is reacting. Resistance is a refusal to yield. It requires belief, conviction. You're not talking about weapons, are you? I'm talking about what made you reach into a junk heap for someone you didn't know." James looked away. "Felt like the right thing." Megan stepped closer. "That is resistance." It wasn't long before the signs arrived. The first was silence. Not normal quiet, dead quiet. The birds stopped calling. The insects, the wind chimes in the neighboring lot, the low thrum of the power grid, all muted, as though the world had hit pause. Then came the lights. High in the upper atmosphere, thin pulses of ultraviolet shimmered, forming near invisible rings, not enough for most to notice. But Megan saw them. "They've initiated a drift scan. We have minutes, maybe less." James snapped out of his daze. "Where do we go?" She turned to him with an odd calm. "Not far, just down." He followed her to the far end of his property, to an old collapsed silo, unused for years. Megan placed her hand on the rusted entry panel. Nothing happened. James blinked. "That's not a control." Before he could finish, the ground beneath them shuddered. A section of earth sank inward, folding like fabric, revealing a hidden staircase wrapped in soft, synthetic light. Megan gestured him forward. "You've had a secret tunnel this whole time?" She gave him that almost smile again. "I remembered it just now." They descended quickly, the tunnel curving in ways no human architecture would dare. James realized midway through that this hadn't been dug. It had been grown. The walls pulsed faintly, alive with heat and circuitry. "What is this place?" he asked, breath echoing in the silence. "A seed vault," Megan replied. "Not for food, for knowledge." The chamber at the end opened like a bloom. Smooth white surfaces, pillars that throbbed with memory light, and a central plinth surrounded by suspended glyphs. James didn't recognize any of it, but he felt it. The hum of meaning. The air tasted like electricity and dust. Megan walked to the center, placing her hands on the plinth. "I was created here, or rather completed. My matrix was synthesized in this chamber and sent out to monitor, to learn, and eventually to choose." James took a cautious step forward. "Choose what?" "Humanity," she whispered. "Or not." That landed like a thunderclap. "You mean, like, whether to help us?" "Number whether to preserve you." James opened his mouth, then closed it. "I don't understand. Who sent you?" She looked up, gold eyes reflecting layers of history. "They called themselves the architects, not gods, not rulers, observers. When a species reached a point of inflection, when it hovered between progress and collapse, they would intervene, sometimes to guide, sometimes to erase." "And we're at that point?" he asked, voice low. "We were," she said. "Then they vanished." "Vanished how?" "I don't know. I was dormant before the signal ever came. But now, something is trying to take their place. Something harsher. They're not architects. They're—" A sharp tone blared across the chamber. Megan flinched. The glyphs above her spun faster, pulsing red. "They found us." James felt his stomach drop. "Can we fight here?" "Number, but we can show them." "Show them what?" Megan stepped down from the plinth, her skin visibly glowing now, etched with fine lines of light. "That we are not what they think, that we are worth choosing again." Before James could respond, the chamber shifted. A circular aperture opened above them, like an eye, and a beam of violet energy poured downward. It didn't burn, it scanned. A slow, deliberate wave that passed through Megan and then him. A voice, smooth, sexless, cold, filled the chamber. "Unsanctioned entity detected. Purge protocol ready." Megan stepped forward. "I do not submit," she said clearly. "I have made a selection." "Selection invalid. Humans are non-salvageable." "I disagree." A pause, then the beam flared, and something happened. The light twisted, warped, folding backward into the aperture like a reverse scream. The glyphs in the chamber froze, and the voice returned, fainter now. "Bond detected. Evaluation suspended." James could hardly breathe. "What just happened?" Megan exhaled. "I passed judgment. On them." He stared at her. "How?" She looked at him, not with glow, not with circuits, but with something painfully human. "Because I chose you." And for a moment, everything stilled. The glyphs resumed their soft drift. The aperture above closed. And Megan relaxed. Her glow faded, the light in her skin dimming to a soft pulse under her collarbone. "We're not safe yet," she said, stepping toward him. "But they're thinking twice now," James replied, voice trembling. She reached out, gently touching his wrist. "Because you offered kindness when I had nothing to give in return. Because you saw me." James looked down at her hand, then up into her eyes. "Maybe we both needed to be found." They stood there for what felt like hours, wrapped in the soft, hum-filled silence of the chamber, human and not human, bound not by programming or prophecy, but by the quiet gravity of choice. And outside, above them, something vast and watching shifted course. The wind howled through the broken trees above, shredding clouds and flinging dust into the morning sky. James and Megan emerged slowly from the hidden vault, blinking against the light. The air felt different now, not calmer, but charged, like the world itself was waiting to see what would happen next. James reached the surface first, offering his hand to help Megan out. She took it without hesitation. No scan, no diagnostics, just a simple human gesture. "So," he said, brushing dirt from his jeans, "did we just Talk our way out of annihilation? Not exactly, she replied, brushing her hair back. We invited the eyes above to reconsider. Sounds like the sort of thing that needs a good follow-up plan. I agree. They walked in silence for a few paces, back toward the house, or what remained of it. The barn was intact, but his small living quarters had suffered a structural failure during the purge scan. The roof caved in on one side, windows shattered, and yet Megan's old charging chair still stood in the center of the living room like a throne. He stared at it, then chuckled without humor. Weird what survives. Megan looked at it thoughtfully. That's not the part that matters. No, you survived. James glanced at her. You make it sound like that wasn't part of the plan. I wasn't entirely sure the bond would protect you, but you didn't hesitate. He shrugged. Didn't have time to think about it. And honestly, if they'd taken you out, I wouldn't want to stick around anyway. Something in her expression tightened just for a second. You keep saying things like that. Like what? Like I matter. James smiled faintly. You're just now figuring that out? She looked away, blinking quickly. I suppose I'm just starting to believe it. Before he could respond, a new sound split the sky. Low, rhythmic, approaching. They turned in unison. 3 dark shapes broke the cloud cover, descending fast. Sleek triangular craft, unmistakably alien, but not the cold clinical ones from before. These were older, ornate, symbolic. Megan tensed. Those aren't the same as the ones who tried to purge us. Good or bad? Unknown. The crafts landed in the field behind the barn, scorching circles into the grass. No weapons deployed, no drones, just silence. Then the central ship hissed open, and a figure emerged. She was tall, nearly 8 feet, blue-gray skin with silver patterns etched into her arms like living tattoos. Her eyes gleamed like polished jet, and her long coat shimmered in ways that made it hard to look directly at it. James took a step back. Megan didn't move. The woman approached calmly, stopping a few feet away. Her voice was quiet, but it carried an ancient weight. You are the fragment. Megan inclined her head. I was. No longer. You accessed the vault? Yes. You resisted. I chose. A pause, then the stranger turned to James. You aided her. He nodded slowly. I did. You are aware of what she was built to become? I'm aware of what she is now. The stranger studied him for a long moment. I am called Atraxi, first of the Reclaimers. We were those who opposed the architects, not out of hatred, but out of hope. We believed that every species deserved a chance beyond judgment. James looked over at Megan. So you're allies? Not always, Megan replied, but they never tried to erase us. That counts for something. Atraxi reached into a pouch at her side and withdrew a small device. Circular, faintly glowing. She extended it to Megan. Your decision reverberated. The overseers have paused their purge directives. Others like you, fragments, constructs, synthetic minds, they are awakening now. Because you made a choice no algorithm could predict. Megan took the device slowly. What do you want from me? To guide them. James blinked. Wait, you mean lead them? Yes, Atraxi said simply. You carry the lattice key now. Others will find you, but they will not understand without context. You carry both, logic and empathy. You are the only bridge. Megan looked down at the disc in her hands, then at James. I don't want to leave this place. You may not have to, Atraxi said. This place is now a nexus. The signal broadcast from the chamber is ongoing. Your presence anchors it. James raised an eyebrow. So, what, you're saying people, or beings, are going to come here? Correct, he groaned. I don't even have working plumbing right now. Megan laughed softly. I can help with that. Atraxi stepped back. We will remain in orbit, not to control, to assist. You are not alone. The Reclaimer turned, walking back toward her ship, but just before she stepped inside, she paused. Human, James straightened. You matter, not because of what you are, but because of what you chose when no one was looking. Then she vanished into the ship and the vessels lifted into the sky like ghosts, disappearing into the clouds. Silence returned. Megan sat on the edge of the porch, the disc still glowing faintly in her hands. Can I ask you something? James said, sitting beside her. Of course. When this all started, when you woke up in the shed, scared, confused, what did you think of me? She was quiet for a long time. Then, I thought you were a variable, a wild card, a human who might help or sell me out. But then you made a cup of coffee and asked me if I was cold. No weapon, no demand, just kindness. Doesn't sound like much. To you, maybe. To me, it changed everything. He smiled, brushing a lock of hair from her face. I'm not going anywhere, you know. She leaned against him, her voice soft. I know. That's why I chose you. They sat together as the light shifted. Behind them, the chamber pulsed deep underground. Above, the sky was no longer hostile, but full of unknown stars, eyes watching, decisions forming. And there, on a broken farm at the edge of nowhere, a human and a former construct waited for the future. Not as pawns, but as partners. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. And for once, that was enough.